Facebook Live, what's going on? Hope everybody's day is going super fantastic. Listen, today has been such an awesome day on today, and I'm letting some of you guys join in real fast, and we'll get started on what I want to share with you guys on today. Today's going to be a great video, a different perspective. I'm super excited about sharing this video with you guys, and also about bringing this video to you guys. Listen, I have a very dynamic guest on tonight, and I want to stop right here and pause and just tell everybody, all the fathers that's watching, I want to say happy Father's Day to you all. Happy Father's Day to each and every one of you guys that's joining live, and everybody that's joining live. I just want to say good evening. Hope your day has been going super fantastic. I'm super excited about sharing this video with you on tonight. I have a very influential, very special guest on tonight, Bishop Charles Bond. I believe that his perspective on what we're talking about tonight is going to be a blessing to your life long past this day is over. So as you come in, this is what I need you to do. I need you to type in below what city and what state that you're viewing from. What's going on? My best friend all the way from ATL, Victor Winfrey. Natasha Rivers, thank you so much for joining in live to an AOS Inspires video. Listen, if this is your first time viewing an AOS Inspires video, I need you to type in below, I'm a first time viewing. I want to cordially welcome you on tonight. Thank you so very much for joining us live on tonight. I am excited about this video on tonight, because oftentimes people ask the question, how do I balance my life with what people expect? And on tonight, we're going to get those questions answered. Brookhaven, Georgia is in the building. Thank you so much, Victor, man. I greatly appreciate it. Listen, I need you guys to type in below what city, what state you're viewing from. Watch this. I need you to give me your thumbs up, give me your hearts, give me your emojis. It costs you nothing, but it means everything to us. It means everything to me. So I don't like to assume that people know who we are. So let me cordially introduce myself. I am Mr. AOS Inspires himself. If you're on Facebook, I'm AOS.inspires. If you're on Instagram, I'm AOS.inspires. If you're on YouTube, Snapchat, and Twitter, I'm AOS.inspires. I promise you, if you holler at me, I'm going to definitely holler back at you. Thank you so much for giving me your emojis, your thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. And the great thing about it is it costs you nothing, but it means everything to me. I'm just waiting for my special guest to come on. And then once my special guest comes on, we're going to add him on in. We're going to start this video, a different perspective. If you have caught me, if you've caught me in the past, a different perspective, you understand that people are being blessed from this Facebook Live TV show, if you will. Our little sketch that we're running out, a different perspective. And what we're doing, what a different perspective is, and I know a lot of people are saying, listen, this is my first time tuning in to a different perspective. But what a different perspective is influential guests that I invite on just to hear their perspective about a topic that we talk about a discussion that we have. Last week we had Pastor Jeff Whitaker that blessed us tremendously. I mean, people were inboxing us and telling me how much the broadcast has blessed their life. Listen, I thank each and every one of you for joining in live right now. So if you would kindly type in below what city, what state you guys are viewing from. I want to cordially welcome you on tonight. We got Brookhaven, Georgia is in the building. Okay, my special guest, he's just arrived. Listen, I'm excited about hearing his perspective about balancing the life people expect from me. So we're going to add him on in right now. I'm excited about sharing on tonight that a different perspective. We have such an influential guest. There we go. Bishop Charles Bond. How you doing, good sir?
Man, I'm amazing. Can you hear me okay?
Hey, listen, I hear you great, man. I hear you great.
Okay, man. And I didn't know if I need to take this earpiece off or if I needed to just do it regular on my phone, man. How you doing? And I'm so honored to be on your show. I feel like I done met a celebrity. Can I get your autograph back? I got a pen.
Listen, man, I greatly appreciate you taking out the time out your busy schedule to talk to a little preacher, local preacher as myself, man. I thank you so much for being on a different perspective.
Man, thank you for having me on Different Perspective, man. And trust me, ain't nothing local about you, Reverend. It take a lot of confidence to do this, man. So I'm just
Bless you,
grateful.
man.
I'm honored. I really am.
Thank you so much. Listen, I want to talk to the viewers real fast. All of the viewers that's joining in live, we thank each and every one of you for joining in live. This is what I need you to do. I need you to share this video right now. Why? Because you are connected to some people that we are not connected with. And with that connection together, we can empower the world to never give up. I promise you, this is one video to hear Bishop Charles Bond's perspective on how do I balance my life from what people expect. I'm excited about hearing his perspective, and we want to cordially welcome him. So as we do it every AOS Inspires video, I need you guys to type in below. As you come on, type in below right now, I'm amazing. That's what I need you to do right now. As you come on live, I need you to type in, I'm amazing. And we're about to get started right now on a different perspective. So we want to welcome our very special guest, Bishop Charles Bond, on tonight. How you doing, good sir?
Man, I'm amazing, Doc. I am grateful, man. I'm so grateful to God to be on this show with you. Like I said earlier, and I was trying to invite some people, but man, I'm grateful. I thank God for the opportunity to even share. You know, it's amazing. Bishop Jakes taught me something years ago. He says, it's amazing the people that go forever and nobody ever notices them.
That's it.
So, the fact that people even notice you, that's a blessing itself, so it's very humbling.
Yes, sir.
Very
yes,
humbling,
sir.
man.
Yes, sir, man. Listen, man, I remember a while back when I first saw your video that went viral. I mean, listen, I have just started preaching, and I watched that video back to back to back to back. I tried to get my hoop just like you, but I couldn't get it. So I said, I thank God for what he gave me.
Man, look, don't mess up your ministry, man, with that little raggedy hoop, dog. I think it was more nervous than anything, probably.
Listen, man, let's get started. Tell me something. Tell us something about yourself that the viewers may not know. Tell us everything about you, how you started ministry, how old you were when you received the calling. Tell us about yourself. We want to hear from you.
Well, I'm gonna turn this earpiece off, man, because I think it's probably more irritating me. So you can still hear me, okay? Everything
yes,
well?
Yes.
Okay. Well, just a little bit about myself. Let's see. I'm 44 years old. I'll be 45 in October, so I'm close to 50, which just blows my mind. Today, I celebrated 30 years of ministry today.
Oh, wow.
Been licensed for now 30 years as of today, pastor for 20 years. Wow. My name is Charles Edward Bond Jr. I'm the last out of 7 children. There's 5 of us living now. Oh, and wow. I live here now. I live in the city. I'm back in the city of Memphis, Tennessee. I pastored in Mississippi for 7 years. I pastored 2 churches there. I went on to Columbus, Ohio, and pastored there for 13 years. And now I'm the senior minister on staff at New Salem Baptist Church, where I'm second seat to none other than the living legend, the walking Bible, Dr. Frank Edward Ray Sr., man. I serve right next to my pastor, man.
Praise God, man. Praise God. And as I ask all of my preacher guests, what made you fall in love with preaching and pastoring? Because there's a difference. Every video that we get on that I talk to a pastor or a preacher, there's a difference between preaching and just pastoring. There's a big difference. So tell me, when did you fall in love with preaching and pastoring?
Well, man, I fell in love with preaching many years ago. My father was a hog farmer. He worked for Firestone, and he was a concrete finisher, but he was a hog farmer. So on the way to feed up the hogs with my daddy would teach me how to meet a Dr. Watt hymns. Those in the old Baptist church, he's had these things on Dr. Watt hymns, right? And so Daddy taught me how to do that. And that would be my joy, going with my daddy to feed up our hogs. And it was just that country feel of, being in, seeing what him and the deacons did every Sunday. And then my uncle, who was living at the time, he married my Uncle Arthur Herring. He's gone on to be with the Lord. Watching him preach, falling asleep in mama's lap as a kid and waking up as he was about to come on home with it. And that's kind of where I fell in love with preaching, man. And then years ago, my dad used to take me to revival to hear Dr. Jasper Williams Jr.
Okay. Okay.
At Lane Avenue. Yeah, Lane
Yeah.
Avenue. It was Lane Avenue. Now it's World Overcomers, where his brother, Apostle
Exactly.
Alton R. Williams, pastors. But now it was Lane Avenue. There was the dad's church, his dad's church. And little did I know it was there where I saw Jasper Williams III as a little boy preach one of his first sermons. And never did I know that, now fast forward many years later now, he and I would be best of friends. He's one of my best friends, Jasper Williams III.
Wow.
And so, man, man, that's what made me fall in love with preaching, you know.
Okay.
And pastoring, I fell in love with pastoring, honestly, when I got called to my first church in Mississippi, Ashland, Mississippi. I got called to Samuel Chapel Missionary Baptist Church, which was formerly pastored many years ago by Dr. C.L. Franklin, Aretha Franklin's father. And it was one of his circuit churches. And many people, he didn't stay there any length of time, you know, but his name is on the plaque there in the vestibule of the church. But when I got called to my very first church, man, 1996, man, I tell you, I fell in love with it, man, shepherding the Lord's people.
Yes,
What an awesome responsibility that he would trust with mere mortals, man. I fell in love with it, man.
Okay. So looking at pastor preaching, let's talk about the expectation of what people expect from a preacher or pastor. What are those expectations that you would say that people expect from pastor preacher?
Well, I think, man, sometimes there's some unrealistic expectations.
Yes, absolutely.
Preacher, it's a lot of unrealistic expectations.
Yes.
And sometimes we need to do a better job at managing people's expectations.
Yes.
Because what happened to me was, man, you know, I went through and I'll share, I hope it's okay to be very transparent and naked.
Be transparent.
Here in this moment. You know, I went through, when I went to my first church, just to give you an example, when I went to my first church, I was single. I was young. I was a single preacher. And the folks just kind of liked me, honestly, because they thought I could preach a little bit.
That's it.
I didn't know what I was doing, man. I was a novice. And but after 2 or 3 years, you could kind of tell they wanted me to have a wife. And being young and impressionable and wanting my church to be happy and wanting to be, you know, a good pastor, I just jumped up and got married, you know, and got married and, you know, didn't go through really no counseling for any length of time, just, you know, got married. And there I was, didn't know what I was doing, trying to please other people because of that image and those unrealistic expectations. And I was in a marriage, but I didn't know how to be a husband, man. I didn't, and I kind of, in some reason, got married for the wrong reasons. And I ended up going through a divorce, but it was all because I was trying to live up to an image that other people had set. And what I try to tell anybody listening to this feed, any preacher, any person in ministry, any person, just a Christian, period, don't die and kill yourself trying to keep up an image. So many preachers, ministers, people who are saved, that they lose themselves trying to keep up an image, man, unrealistic expectations, you know?
Wow.
I hope I'm answering the questions, bro, preacher. I hope I'm not getting too far.
You're doing a great job. Great job. So elaborate on that more. How can keeping up with other people's expectation kill you?
Well, you know, here's something that most of my colleagues and I and constituents can agree on. I'm sure yourself too, being an experienced minister as yourself.
Yes.
You know, the first, I'll say 10 years of your ministry, you're really trying to find your own voice.
That's it.
So you are really just a voiceover, if I can say it that way, of your heroes in the gospel. You know, who your influences are. Whoever, you know, the guys who you look, in my day, it was Jasper Williams, C.L. Franklin, Leo Daniels, Frank Ray, you know, and so that's, you know, so you try to pattern yourself after them, but you didn't see their story. You saw snapshots of their move. You didn't see the whole story. And so what happens is sometimes people miss parts of your movie and they judge you because they showed up in the last final scenes. They saw your ever after and didn't see your once upon a time. And so that's one of the things. And then one of the other things, if I just may add, you know, juxtapose, let me just say this, and I hope this blesses somebody. learning to be yourself will help you die to that trying to impress people.
Woo.
Just be who you are. God,
That's it.
if you're trying to be everybody else, we'll never know who you are. The world is waiting on you.
I love that.
And one of the things that blesses me, hey Kenneth Campbell, I'm sorry, it's one of my brothers. I'm shouting out. But one of the things that blessed me was years ago. An older minister, very popular and a very I'm not gonna call names if that's okay, but
Yeah.
mega pastor, what we would call quote mega pastor. Friend invited me to South Carolina to preach. That time I was in a 30,000 seat stadium preaching a
Okay.
major service for TBN. For
Yes.
TBN. And I was younger, and I was so glad to be invited to be the main preacher on the stage, and this was a
Yeah.
multicultural gathering.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
man, I got up and I was so nervous, man. You get up, see all those thousands of people out there in that
Right.
audience, man, and you just up on the stage and I was nervous. And so I went to my default, which was preaching like my pastor, Dr. Ray. And
Right.
when I got through, man, I think the folk were blessed and enjoyed it and all that. But the minister that invited me said, listen, if I would have wanted to hear Pastor Ray, I would have invited him. He said, I
Wow.
wanted to hear Charles
Wow.
Dunn. And
Wow.
so that was his nice way of letting me know that it was
Yes.
okay to be me, you
That's it.
know?
That's it. So what would you tell the young preacher that's coming up? And if everybody would be transparent and honest, we go through that phase. I mean, we go through that phase
Yeah.
where we're trying to find ourselves, and we look up to a preacher and we mimic their style, we mimic their swag, we mimic the way they deliver, and we mimic their gestures. But it's when there's a point that a person or a preacher, a singer, a worship leader, or organist, whatever it is in the body of Christ will learn to be themselves.
Well, let me best answer that question this way. Bishop T.D. Jakes says something again. He's one of my favorites. He's a
Yes.
mentor and he's a great brother, beloved. And
Uh-huh.
but he said something interesting. He said, "Ain't nothing wrong with being a copycat, as long as you copy the right
Long as you
cat."
copy the right.
You know. But here's the issue again. When you ask the when, I
Yes.
believe when you really get to a place where you have and let me coin this term, when you have the Godfidence, the
Mm,
Godfidence
I like that.
to be bold and stand up in what God gave
Yes.
you. It's a
Yes.
self-esteem issue.
That.
It's
Ooh.
really a self-esteem issue because we're attacked on so many sides, even
We
by
are.
people who are supposed to love us, who are
Yes.
supposed to protect us. And
Yes.
sometimes we get attacked on so many sides, we're afraid to be us because
Yes.
society and the church has done a horrible job at
Wow.
allowing people to be who they are. See, even in
Mm.
church, one of the indictments I have against the church is that church taught us how to do church, but didn't always teach us how to do life.
Whew.
And then the other indictment I have against the church, in so many cases, and what I have against the church is that's supposed to be my father's house. It's supposed to be where the one place where I can go and be comfortable and be
That's
myself
it.
and be transparent and where I can be naked. But the church is the only place that refuses to allow me to really be quote unquote real. And
Real.
let me say why I say that. Have you ever noticed that really in church what people are trying to do is create smaller versions of themselves instead of
Mm.
smaller versions of Christ? Our only
Mm.
job is to
I like
point
that.
people to Him. It's not to make them like us, dress like us, and look like us. We get caught up in the
That's it.
accoutrements of what's not really
Yes.
important. That has nothing to do with salvation. It's salvific. And so, what I say out of 30 years of doing this, man, is that this church, your generation, and I thank God for you. And I'm not saying this because I'm on your
Yes.
show. I'm saying this because I thank God for you and
Yes.
your generation who's going to usher in.
Yes.
And let me say this, it needs to be done tactfully and tastefully now because there does
Yes.
need to be a
Yes.
correlation, yes, you can come as you
That's
are,
it.
but you shouldn't be expected to stay as you are. And so,
Stay as you are.
salvation is salvation is more about what you got in and less about what you got on. I just think that what has happened is in
I
our
like that.
attempt to want to win the world, we thought that meant having to be like the
Yes.
world. And so we adjusted
Be
our
like it.
music,
That's
we
it.
adjusted our style, we adjusted our dress, trying to say, "Oh, come be with us. We're
Yes.
okay. We're really cool." Well, what happens is you lower a
Right.
standard, and then what happens is you
Standards.
remove the sacerdotality. you remove the
Yes.
sacredness out of what it's really all about, which is life change, you know?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I hope I'm not
Yes.
over talking, man. I hope I'm not over talking.
No, no, no. You're doing an absolutely phenomenal job. But let me pause real fast to tell all of our watchers, our live viewers now, please share this video.
Yeah.
You are connected to some people that needs to listen in and tune in. Tag somebody below. Share this video. You are connected to some people that we're not connected with. With that connection together, we can empower the world to never give up. So let me go to my next question. What does
Okay.
expectation mean and look like to you? What does expectation look and mean like to you?
When you say expectation, and I want to make sure I answer it correctly. Yeah, my name Cameron just came
Yes.
on. Hey, Cameron. Expectation as far as godly expectation, am I on the right
Well,
track?
yes, godly expectation and also the expectation of the position that God has entrusted you in.
Okay. Well, I think the main expectation is to keep it all about what it's really about. And what I mean by
Yes.
that is that just like all the time I get invited and went, man, how much you charge to come do our so and so? And you know,
Yeah.
I understand that, but the problem with that is I don't preach for a living. I live to preach. And so
I like that, brother. I like that.
there's a there's a difference. You know, I'm not a hireling.
Yeah.
I'm a hey Bishop, hey, Damien, Dr. Epps, that's my brother, a friend of mine. Anyway, and so when I talk about expectation, I mean more for us to make it less about us and more about Him. And let me
That's
explain
it.
if I
That's it.
may. Let me explain if I
Please
may
do.
what I mean by that. When I was years ago, I went to do a citywide revival out in South
Yeah.
Carolina, and I was doing this citywide
Okay.
revival, and I mean, man, literally, you couldn't get near the church, man. I mean, crowds just every
Right.
night from night one. I mean, the crowds were just off the meter. People were actually
Wow.
parking up the street and walking from the school
Wow.
to the church because they couldn't get near the church. And
Wow.
so I take my preaching assignments very serious. I take my preaching
Yes.
assignments very serious. I'm not an entertainment. He had said,
Yeah.
"Man, look, I gotta go. My grandbaby is sick, and so I can't take you to lunch." I said, "Man, look, I'll come to the hospital and be with you and your family." He said, "No, no, Bishop, you need to get some rest. You got to preach." He said, "But I'm gonna let another young preacher come take you to to dinner or to
Yeah.
lunch rather." And man picked me up, and of course he had seen me on YouTube, and when I got in his
Yeah.
car, he wanted to, I guess, impress me. He wanted to impress me, and he was just talking real, about how his church and people telling him that
Uh-huh.
he too gifted for the church he was at, and he ain't gonna be at that little
Wow.
church long, and
Right.
he need to do this, and there's a big church that's gonna look at him, and he's talented, and he put his one of his sermons on. And so when we got to the restaurant, he said, "Man, I
Uh-huh.
see your resume now where you've got charter schools." Because at one point I had 220 children a day going to my church, going to school
Wow.
at my church in Columbus. And I had did a multi-million-dollar renovation project on the educational wing at the church I was at the time, and had a charter school. And so, people
Yeah.
talk about that on your resume. And, he said, "Man,
Right.
tell me, how do I build my church? How do I grow my church like you grew your church?" And so what I asked him was this. I asked him, "Are you trying to grow his church in his
Mm.
name, or are you trying to grow your church and use his name?" Because if you're trying to
Mm.
grow his church, if
Woo.
you're trying to grow his church in his name, you need to get closer to him. But if you're trying
Mm.
to grow your church and
Yeah.
you using his name, you just need a
Reverend, you
marketing
talking,
plan.
Reverend. You talking good,
And
but you know
so
what? Jamal Bryant said something so powerful. He said there's so many people that's trying to make it big in church, but don't want to be nothing in the marketplace. I find a very big
exactly.
issue with that. That people want to be the top dog in church, but want to be the little dog in the
Yeah.
marketplace. Now, so moving on.
Exactly.
What does
Well,
balance look like to you? What does balance look like to you?
if I could say anything to, and when I say your generation, please don't.
Yes.
I'm not
That's
acting
fine.
like I've arrived or like I'm
Yes.
some grand poobah. But if I can say anything to your generation, it would be take care of yourself
Mm.
so that you can take care of God's business.
People. Yes, that's it. That's it.
So many young preachers are dying too early
Mm.
because look who we lost. We lost Sean Jones. We lost Quinn
Yes.
Barlow. We lost Keith Smith. We
Yes.
lost C.L. Harvey. The list goes on. The
Yes.
younger preachers dying young. One of the issues is that we're so busy going after what looks like success.
Mm.
We're forgetting we're forgetting that it should be about his agenda and
His
not
agenda,
our
not
own.
our agenda.
So balance means, first of all, your first ministry is to your family.
That's it. That's
You
it.
know,
That's it.
you mentioned somebody a minute ago. You just mentioned a contemporary of mine, Jamal Bryant, and I was with Jamal
Yeah.
a couple of years ago in DC together, and Jamal had something, and I was there, and we were talking, and Jamal said something very interesting. Jamal said that he was
Uh-huh.
over in South Africa getting ready to preach, and he says that the guy
Yeah.
that was on to introduce him, they took 45 minutes to introduce the guy who was going to introduce him. And he was like, man, I didn't understand
Wow.
why
Wow.
he asked the guy beside him. You know, they brought the guy who, now this is the guy who introducing him. They brought the guy's children up on
Right.
stage and told about their education and their
Wow.
and their, and he, Jamal asked the guy, why did you spend all the time introducing his family and all that? He goes, Pastor Brian, and our ministry is not successful by how many members you have and how big your church is.
Right.
Your ministry is how well you minister to your family.
Yeah.
So in other words, your first ministry is your home. And if that's successful, you can have success in
That's it.
ministry. And can I say one
Yeah.
more thing?
Tell me.
Years ago, man, I went through a storm and I had resigned from a church. Wasn't no scandal, wasn't nobody pregnant, had nobody stole no money. I just, I felt my season was up
All
and I
right.
was in a transition in my life. And and so I planted a church, and God blessed it. The plant was successful,
Yes.
for the meetings of a young new church, man. I walked away from what folk would call big league, big church, and
Right.
started over with 10 people in
Right.
my living room. And folk thought I
Oh
was
wow.
crazy, man, but I just didn't want to be an entertainer anymore. When you talk about
Right. Right.
balance
Right.
for me was making sure that I
Yes.
didn't lose myself chasing
Right.
things and money and cars and women and other things that
Yes.
trip up preachers.
Yes.
And I'm just being very
Yes.
transparent,
Yes.
because I made
Be
some of those
transparent, Reverend.
mistakes and I didn't want to do that again. And what happened was,
Yes.
what happened was, in the midst of all that, planning the church,
Yes.
it dawned on me. I kind of hit a brick wall because I was just burnt out. I was operating on fumes.
Yes.
I took care of
Right. Right.
everybody
Right.
but
Right.
me, and so I hit a season of
But
depression.
you.
I hit a real
That's
season of
it. That's
depression,
it.
man. Here I was, the guy
Yes.
on YouTube with collectively over a
Yes.
million views on YouTube, and folk knew
That's
me
it.
around the world, quote unquote. I mean, I was preaching in St. Kitts, West Indies,
Wow.
and the driver that take us to the hotel knew who I was, had seen me on YouTube. So
Wow.
now that gives you a global mandate. And what happened was, man, I was in
Yes.
depression, and so I'm a reader. Not only am I an author, I'm a reader. And so there was a book on my
Right. Right. Right.
table by one of our white brothers that I got at a conference. His name was Sean Lovejoy, and the name of the book
Okay.
was called "The Measure of Our Success: An
Mm.
Impassioned Plea to Pastor." And he opened
Wow.
up the book, by saying, literally, I was in bed for 3 days, man. I wouldn't do nothing but go take a shower, get right back in bed. I didn't want
Right.
to talk to nobody. I was down. I was on empty. And
Right.
so I
Right.
just
Right.
got that book and said, well, let me read a book. Maybe I'll feel better. So I
Right.
just walked in the living room and picked up the book, off my table and went on
Yeah.
back to the bed. And man, for 3 more days, I laid in bed reading this book, only to get up to shower and eat and get back into bed. And he
Wow.
opens up the book saying, and this is going back to balance. He
Yeah.
opened
Yeah.
up the
Yeah.
book by saying, what's wrong with pastors and preachers?
Wow.
Why is it? Why is it that we have such public successes, but such private failures?
That's it.
Why
That's it.
is it
That's
that
it.
we can save everybody's marriages but our own?
But
Why
ours.
is it that we can save everybody's children but our children?
That's
And
it.
so he went ahead and talked about our father issues, how so many times those of us in ministry haven't been fathered correctly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm talking about, paternally by your
That's it.
biological father, in
Right.
the ministry, and so
Yeah.
we talked about that. What happened was, brother minister, it was interesting as I read on in the book. He talked
Yeah.
about because we've gotten away from it
Yeah.
being about Christ, the cross,
That's it.
and what he did for us on Calvary.
That's
And
it.
he tells, I'll say this very quickly and I'll move on. I know we got to move on. He
Yes.
says, he says in the book that because they were a mega church, they always were on the 100 fastest growing churches list.
Churches. Right.
So whenever another new church would hit the list, they would
Yes.
fly or send one of their staff preachers to the church to see what it was about and see if it was something they could
Right.
glean or learn from. And what happened
Wow.
was, he says they sent their newest staff pastor to go check it out. And they had their Monday morning meeting. And they sat
Right.
there looking at him and said, man, what happened? He said, oh, pastor, it was awesome. He said, man, the parking lot was like a traffic jam. He said,
Wow.
man, the greeters made me feel like I've been there all my life. The lightning show and the praise and worship, I felt like I was at a rock concert.
Wow.
He said, man, and the pastor was so funny. He said, man, the pastor was so funny. I never laughed so hard in my life. And so the pastor, Sean Lovejoy, asked him, said, man, well, how was the invitation to Christ? How was the call to discipleship? The young man
Right.
hung his head and started crying. They said, what's wrong? He lifted up his head and said, man, I don't even believe they mentioned his name.
Wow.
My point is you can have all the accoutrements, you can have all the bells and whistles, and leave out the main ingredient, which is Jesus Christ. So
Jesus
balance
Christ
in
himself.
this day is enjoy life. Go have
Yes.
some fun. Go throw
Yes.
the ball with your kids. Go
That's
spend
it.
some time with them. You can't go to every hospital visit. You can't be at every
That's
funeral. You can't make every chitlin strut and every hot dog fry. Go enjoy yourself. Go to the movies. If you like, I like riding
Yes.
motorcycles. Man,
That's
I'm
it.
just me. I go to the comedy club every now and then
Right.
and hear me a comedy
That's
show
it.
with my wife. Man, I mean, I'm trying to enjoy life. I want to live, Doc.
That's it. And you have to enjoy life. But let me ask you the question. When you
Okay.
have reached a certain level of ministry and you have reached a certain level
Okay.
of skill in your profession of what God has called you to do, how do you balance your life so you won't get consumed by the hype? Now, when I say by the hype, I'm talking about people patting you on your back, because I'm going to be honest with you. Let's be honest and transparent. When we post our videos on Facebook, when we post, or we have our team post our videos on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, whatever social media platform that we have, how can a person that has reached a certain level of ministry, a certain level of skill, a certain level of calling where people are calling to experience your gift, how can they not get consumed by the hype of being patted on the back, of saying, Doc, you killed the house, man. You got a tune, you can sing, because I know that you can sing, Bishop. So how can a person position themselves? Reverend, you got some pipes on you. But how can you position yourself so you won't get consumed by the hype?
You're very kind, first of all. I don't think I'm
Reverend,
nobody's singer. I can give you
it's
some
true,
phone
Reverend.
numbers.
It's true, Reverend.
Okay. Thank you, man. Thank you. But I tell you what, the first thing Donald Parsons says, Dr. Donald Parsons says that don't become a legend in your own mind and not be a legend in your own time.
Talk, Reverend, talk.
Because sometimes some of these guys get they open. I always remind myself, I police myself at remembering that I'd rather the Lord. See, you got to realize something, Doc. Would it take you 20 years to build up? God can take 20 seconds and tear it all down. And so, I'm always reminding myself that, man, this ain't even about me, man.
That's it, man.
About me. Let me say something. Can I say something? Can I say something in particular about something you just said?
Yes, sir.
It's funny, bro, preacher.
Yeah.
I've never put anything on YouTube. I never posted my own videos. Other people, the man that made E. Dewey Smith popular, the reason we even know who E. Dewey Smith is.
I call him Mr. YouTube. He's Brother Rollins. It's my good friend. Brother
Rollins. Every preacher that he has ever posted owes Brother Rollins a check. I sent him some money, man, because he don't.
Yes, they need to send him.
He's the one that posted. Yes, sir. He's the one that posted that video of me, where I took my clothes off, the prodigal son video.
Yes.
It was actually a sermon, about my own story, and the sermon is called "Some Good Things About a Bad Boy," and it has now almost a million views, almost collectively. And so I never knew I was building ministry when I didn't. I was just doing what he called me to do.
Right.
And I think that's where we lose the enjoy the skill. Enjoy it. Cherish relationships. Stop being so thirsty for the limelight and so aggressive. I'm not saying don't promote yourself. I'm not saying don't post your videos. What I am saying, though, is while you're inundating people with media, remember that it's more about lifestyle. You see what I'm saying?
That's it.
See, I told you I don't preach for a living. I live to preach. So therefore, my living comes out of my preaching, and my preaching comes out of my living. And man, let me say this last thing, and I'll be quiet because you asked me a specific question. I want to make sure I answer it. When you talk about you working on your craft and your skill, I owe so many people because of that. I owe my daddy, who's not a singer but taught me how to sing, Dr. Watt Hymns, how to gauge myself, how to keep my gait, how to take my time, how to not get in a hurry on metered hymns. Dr. Watt, I love the Lord, he heard my cry hymn. And that's how I grew up, man. And then I owe Pastor Frank E. Ray, who a lot of people don't know that when I was younger, man, and I'll be a little transparent, there was a time where I got in trouble in my teenage years, and I had to go to prison. And going to prison, and it was Dr. Frank Ray that came and got me. And he told me, son, there's two kind of folk in the world, the caught and the uncaught. He said, there's a lot of folk that did a lot of stuff worse than you. They just ain't got caught yet. And man, the Lord that fired me because I started preaching. I started preaching at 14. I got licensed to preach at 14. I got ordained when I was 15. I got off of my first church when I was 17. And, things kind of went fast. Things were going real fast. And so I got caught up in that dark world, trying to make sense and all that. So that prodigal son sermon was me. The prodigal son.
Right.
I left home, disappointed my parents,
Right.
made some horrible mistakes, had hit rock bottom in the hog pen of life, and
Wow.
went home and asked daddy to take me back. And that's what happened, man. So that prodigal son story of me taking off my clothes and all that, that was just me reenacting my own story. And what I learned in that is that when you chase your assignment, it's chasing ambition. Then will give you a grace that will make it easy, you know? See, when you chase ambition, you stay tired. When you chase your assignment, your grace will make it easy.
That's it. And I heard you say that
man,
about Bishop. I heard you say about Pastor Frank Ray. He came to your rescue in your teens. Let me ask you a quick question. How important is mentorship?
Oh, my God. The most paramount of it all is being properly mentored.
Yes.
When I see these folk now doing this stuff in ministry, preaching these old crazy sermons about and all these videos about all this foolery, man, that's embarrassing. It tells me they haven't been mentored and they haven't been pastored. And let me say something. For instance, I write in my book, I talk about the need for a coach. If Michael Jordan needed a shooting coach, if Beyonce has to have a vocal coach, if Tiger Woods had to have a swinging coach, what make us think we don't need a coach?
That's it. I like that.
Terrell Owens, who was the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, said that Terrell Owens is one of the most gifted wide receivers of our time that he had ever seen. But his problem was he was uncoachable. Learn to be coachable. Learn to be where you can be mentored, be molded and shaped. Watch this, not by a shyster, not by a crook, not with motives. That's where developing relationships come from. I'm preaching in the National Baptist Convention this week in Oklahoma City in front of thousands of people Thursday night at the late night. But it's because I proved to be a servant and I humbled myself. And Chairman Mitchell, Mississippi Mitch, who's a brother beloved, he's a son of Salem, and Clint McFarland, who's a longtime friend, Clint McFarland, and Dr. Ray recommended me for the late night. But they didn't recommend me on gift, they recommended me on my ability to serve.
That's it. And a lot of people miss that point about serving and trying to prepare themselves for the platform. But first you have to learn to serve. That's what I love about Joseph. Joseph studied his environment, but watch this. Wherever God had him at, whether he was in prison, whether he was in the palace, he served well where he was. Now, we're about to come to a brief close. I thank you so much for being a special guest. Let me ask you this last question.
Watch your boys.
Most people, bless you, man. Most people post videos and say it's going to hit at least 1,000 views or 1,000,000 views or 10,000 views. They look for the views versus the impact. I'm going to ask you this question of going. After you begin to preach, right? After you begin to get on that platform that you know that God has called you to be on, did you expect for you to be at the place in life, in ministry that you are now? Because we're talking about self-esteem issues with preachers. Because oftentimes preachers get kind of discouraged because the level that God said they don't want to be on, they're not on yet. So elaborate on that, and then we'll be gone.
Okay. I gotta say this, man.
Yes, sir.
If the stage is the draw, or stage is the then they're gonna stay disappointed. They're gonna stay disappointed.
Yes.
And I want to answer your question because I believe the question was.
Ask me a question, brother.
I believe your question, if I'm correct, is how do you stay encouraged or keep your self-esteem up? I believe you're on the stages that God tells you to be. Well, believe the problem is God never called us to be famous. He called us to be faithful.
Yes.
And so I guess the only thing I really can say about that, my brother, is that I would pray that guys would have a prayer life.
Yes.
They would have integrity.
Yes.
That they would. The Bible says, "Study to show thyself approved unto God."
That's it.
We're trying to get approved by men.
By men. That's it.
But study to show yourself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not be made ashamed, not unto men. And so, man, when I go on stages, when you talk about preaching for like a Bishop Edgar Van, you know, and in one service you might preach to 3,000 plus people, and you know, when you talk about, I believe a video I preached for Jasper Williams, 10,000 views in less than 24 hours, and stuff like that. I would share it every now and then because it was the thing to do, but I guess I never focused on the sharing and the views. You said the word earlier. I wanted to impact people. I wanted to make sure I did the kingdom assignment. I wanted to make sure that folks saw enough Jesus in what I was doing that they would want life change, and they would see that it's possible, that you ain't got to quit, you ain't got to give up, but if you just hang on in there and be consistent and be faithful, God is faithful, even when we're not.
That's it. You know? You're absolutely right. Listen, man, we're out of time, but I know that we're never out of message. I want to say thank you from the team, from my staff and myself, from AOS Inspires. I want to say thank you for taking this opportunity to be on a different perspective and give us your perspective on how to balance your life from what people expect out of you. So I thank you so very much. I know that you're very busy.
Thank you for having
We're grateful for you being here. Listen, if you're on Facebook, I'm AOS.inspires. If you're on Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, and Twitter, I'm AOS.inspires. I promise you, if you holler at us, we will definitely holler back at you. Bishop Bond, as we go, I need you to tell all the followers, how can they follow you? How can they purchase your book? What is your cup size? Tell us about everything that you have going on, and then we're gone.
Okay, quickly, the best way to reach me, and this is to call New Salem Missionary Baptist Church in Memphis, Tennessee. Dr. Franklin is the pastor. I am his senior minister on staff there. So that's the best way. And actually speak to Mary Smith. Mary Smith can contact you with me. The other way is you can follow me on Facebook, Charles Bond on Facebook. I have a Twitter, at Bishop Charles Bond on Twitter. I need you to help me get, nephew, I need you to help me get my Snapchat and my Instagram and all that going. I need your help. That show you how antiquated I am. Hey, I went viral and didn't even know how to have Snapchat, okay? So I'm old school. You got to help your uncle out, man. You got to help your uncle out. But, man, reach me on Facebook, inbox me. I'm like you. If you holler at me, I holler back at you. We real people, man. Call the church, you know, or just email me at charlesbond73@hotmail.com or email me at cbond@newsalembaptist.com, and we'll show you how to get the book from our bookstore. Every woman needs to know her cup size, her calling, her uniqueness, and her purpose. I love you to life, man.
Hey, man, I love you to life. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you, everybody. Listen, at the end of every AOS Inspires video, we type in below, I'm amazing. And we go crazy with the thumbs up and the hearts and the emojis. Go ahead and give me your thumbs and your emoji. It costs you nothing, but it means everything to us. Thank you for joining us on a different perspective.
All right,
Grace
love
and
you,
peace.
Peace.
Love you. Likewise.